go. Good morning, Dean. Good morning, classmates. So, for the continuation of the report of people resourcing, my topic is all about selection interviewing. So, here are the topics to be discussed. So, one, I'll be discussing the purpose of the selection interview, the advantages and disadvantages of interviews, and also the type of interview approaches. I'll also give samples of questions for this topic. At the end of this lesson, as a MBA students, we expect that all of us will be, number one, familiarized with the basic and necessary procedure in selecting the most qualified employee for the vacant position of the company. Will be able to help your manager, or if you're already a manager, you will be able to deliver appropriate planning strategies in preparation of up-to-date procedures for hiring. Yan. I would like to begin my discussion by defining what is selection interview. Well, I know all of you are familiar with selection interview kasi di ba halos lahat naman tayo employed na. So basically, we have gone through this process na. Selection interview is also known as employment interview. This is a formal or in-depth conversation conducted to evaluate the acceptability of candidates for employment. Selection interview is a type of oral examination to assess and evaluate an applicant. Selection interview is a free-flowing and open-ended process to determine if an applicant is suitable for a specific job opening. And lastly, selection interview is a vital component of the hiring process. So why do we need to conduct an interview? What's the purpose of it? Okay, for the employer side, the objective is to know what you have to offer. What are your skills, your abilities, your basic knowledge do you have? The employer wants to know also who you are, your interests, your character, and personality that will match to the organization. And also, why you should be hired to be an asset to the organization. Are you competent enough for the position? Or let me say, can you do the job? And lastly, are you fit in the organization? So basically, these questions are the purpose of conducting an interview. This is to determine whether a candidate will be selected for the position he or she is applying for. So let's proceed to the selection. Selection can be defined as the process of determining from among the applicants who can meet the job requirements and can be offered vacant position in the organization. The different department of the organization makes personal requisition to the HRD on their manpower requirement through a personal requisition form duly approved by the management. In a private sector, I don't know in a government sector kung paano ang process sa kanila. Our first step, if our department is hiring for another position due to the replacement or a new position needs to fill in, we must have to fill out a PRF form. So I'll show you the PRF of World City Incorporation, and it consists of the following. Number one, of course, the position required. Why are you asking what is the position you want to fill in? Na, of course, the number of required, and then the qualification, the qualification needed for the application, like the educational background, the work experience, the skills, and others. And lastly, the justification. So, the reason for hiring, it may be a new position or a replacement of an ongoing employee. And last is the signature of immediate head and department head, and also the approval of the president. So after filling out this personal requisition form, we gave it to HRD, and I think this will be their basis for what qualifications of a candidate they need to look for. Basically, there are some advantages and disadvantages for both interviewer and the applicant. Let's talk about first the advantages. Number one is to identify the candidate's competencies. As I mentioned niya, the purpose of the interview is to know if the applicant is competent or fit for the job. With the interview, it provides opportunities for interviewers to ask probing questions about candidates' experience and explore the extent to which the candidates' competencies match those specified for the job. Pero aminin natin, minsan kahit hindi naman talaga competent yung applicant, basta we saw the eagerness in his or her, tapos trainable pa siya, plus point na sa atin yon. Speaking of that, may mga applicant na magagaling lang sa interview. Pero sa actual job, mapapatanong ka na lang kung ano nangyari. Number 2 is enable interviewers to describe the job and the organization in more detail. With the interview kasi, we were able to explain what will be the job of the applicant. And lastly, the third one, of course, importante rin yan na it provides opportunities for candidates to ask questions and terms and conditions of the employment. Yun yan, sinasabi natin na importante rin siya. Kasi kailangan din malaman din yung your salary, your overtime in case na meron, your benefits, and many more. And lastly, interview will give the candidate the same opportunity to assess the organization, the interviewer, and the job. This will talk about the decision of the applicant if he or she will accept the offer. Willing ba siya to work sa company? So, yan ang mga advantages ng interview. For the disadvantages of interview, here are those. Number 1, lack reliability. Of course, with a short period of time, some interviewers failed to validate what will be the performance of the applicant. Of course, rely on the skill of the interviewer. Interview is a systematic process of data collection. The success of an interviewer can lead to misleading result. And of course, it can lead to bias and subjective judgment based on the interviewer. Of course, I agree on this. Totoo naman, na subjective at bias ang interview. Minsan nagbe-base tayo sa curriculum vitae, sa itsura pala ng resume, on how they dress, on how they walk. Always, there is a possibility that the interview process can be influenced by the biases of the interviewer. Now, let's proceed to the types of interview approaches. Employers conduct different types of interview, such as traditional interview, behavioral interview, case interview, stress interview, competency-based interview, group interviews, panel interviews, video and remote interviews, and phone interviews. Ilan lang yan sa mga klase ng interviews. Actually, marami pa. Okay, so let's discuss all of those. In traditional interview, traditional interviews when the applicant and the interviewer meet to discuss their credentials. Typically, this person is a manager, supervisor, or sometimes the owner of the business. For a traditional interview, the applicant will meet the interviewer and the business have an interview in their office or a conference room. Ang tip sa mga ganitong klaseng interview, well, same din naman sa iba. If you are an applicant, you must be prepared by researching more about the company. Okay, the next one is the behavioral interview or yung behavioral-based interviewing. Behavioral-based interviewing is used to assess how the applicant handled specific employment-related situation in his or her previous job. The difference between a behavior-based interview and a traditional job interview is that the interviewer will be asked in detail, like how the applicant dealt with a certain situation in the past that is similar to the ones that he or she might be encountered. Example of questions kapag behavioral interview na ay, give me an example of time you faced a conflict while working with a team. How did you handle that? Or tell me about the time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on and how did you get through it? So these are the example of behavioral interview. Ako sometimes ginagamit ko rin ito sa mga applicant ko, lalo na kapag nasa sales. Like for example, tell me about the time when you had to work with a difficult customer. So I want to know kasi how the applicant overcome difficulties. Yun ang gusto ko marinig sana. Okay. The next one is the case interview. So during a case interview, an applicant will be given a situation and asked how will he or she manage that specific situation and solve a business problem. So case interviews often used to assess candidates' skills for management consulting position. Typically, it will most likely be a business scenario that you are going to encounter when working for a company. So that is the case interview. Like for example, how would you recommend the client to respond to a competitor that enters your market? So that is an example of case interview. The next one is the stress interview. As the name indicates, is used to assess how the applicant responds to stress and under extreme pressure. In contrast to other interview types, where hiring managers will make an effort to make the applicant feel at ease. This is not the case during a stress interview. For example, yan ito. Tell me something about yourself that is not here on the resume. Or you don't have any relevant experience and we only hire experienced professional. Why should we hire you? Stress interviews analytically evaluate the candidate's ability to perform under pressure in unexpected situation. The key to handling this type of interview is to remain calm by telling a story that makes the point. So that is stress interview. The next one is the competency-based interview. Competency-based interview are also known as structured interviews, are used by hiring managers to assess the soft skills and interpersonal competencies of an applicant. Skills and competencies might be asked to demonstrate our communication, decisiveness, leadership, teamwork, and resilience. Here are the example. Describe a situation in which you led a team. And how do you maintain good working relationships with your colleagues? So that is competency-based interview. The next one is a group interview. As the name indicates, this type of job interview means multiple candidates are being interviewed at the same time and is often used if the company is hiring for more than one position. For what reason? Employers hold group interviews for several reasons. First, group interviews with multiple candidates are very efficient. They allow the interviewer to conduct multiple interviews at the same time, saving a lot of work hours. Jobs involving high stress, fast-paced work, or customer interaction also commonly require group interviews. If the applicant performed well during a stressful interview, the applicant may be more suitable to perform in a challenging job. So that is a group interview. The next one is the panel interview. So during a panel interview, the applicant will be interviewed by multiple interviewers from the same organization or an external company. The goal of this type of interview is to minimize the risk of bad hire. The panel typically includes a human resource representative, the manager, and possibly co-workers from the department that the applicant would be working if hired. So that is a panel interview. And then the next one, video and remote interview. Video and remote interviews when the applicant and interviewer are separated by distance have become much more common. Video interview can either be with a hiring manager or a recruiter, and there can be either in person or on demand. Interviewing in this way allows the hiring organization to tap into a wider, more diverse of pool talent. The next one is the phone interview. Phone interview can often be one of the first steps of the applicant in the process, and more companies are carrying out interview telephone screening before inviting the person for a face-to-face interview. And the last one is the job fair interview. So this is a common type of job interview, which is usually lasts no more than 2 to 3 minutes and is usually conducted by employers whose main interest is gathering resumes and initial impressions before making decision as to whether they will move to the next step. So that is a job fair interview. Again, these are the types of interview approaches. So if you are an applicant, showing enthusiasm and maintaining a strong positive attitude is key to making a good impression. At the end of the day, the interviewer wants to know who you really are. So be yourself. As an interviewer naman, think about who is your ideal employee. Remember, your goal is to hire a suitable candidate that will help you and the organization to meet its objective. So, isipin lagi natin yung mga interview natin kung karapat-dapat ba sila sa company. Kasi remember, there are consequences of a bad hire. So, okay. So now, let's proceed to my next topic. The selection test or pre-employment test. So, selection tests are most commonly known as pre-testing and assessment. So, the objective of this is the objective of human resource in doing pre-employment tests is also to use to provide more valid and reliable evidence of levels of intelligence, personality characteristics, abilities, aptitude, and attainments that can be obtained from an interview. Okay. So pre-employment testing and assessment is one of the most objective ways of predicting job performance and company fit. As a manager, there are many types of tests you can choose from, and your testing may vary depending on what you're looking for in a candidate for a specific department or industry. For example, for hiring of senior level executives, probably you want to assess cognitive level and overall personality traits. Pero if rank and file naman, like waiter or janitor, ang test na ginagamit iba rin. Okay. So employers have many reasons to use pre-employment testing, including to accelerate the hiring process. Employers use tests to quickly narrow down the number of applicants they're trying to hire. Syempre, if they have a lot of applicants, kung hundreds na yan, interviewing them one by one will take time talaga. For instance, yung sa mga call center companies, halos araw-araw napakadami nilang applicants. Hindi naman sa lahat yun isa-isa nilang interviewin. With the use of pre-employment testing, they can quickly identify yung mga qualified for the position. The next one is to test an applicant's skills. The primary objective of employers, as I mentioned niya kanina, why they give pre-employment tests to see if the applicant's skills match the requirement with the job description. For example, if an employer is hiring for a copywriter, they might administer a writing test to find out if the applicant's skills match the expectation. And then the last one is to increase the quality of interviews. By gathering sufficient data on applicants, employers can use the result for the test to ask the specific questions related to your skills and work experience. So basically, these are the reasons or objective why human resource companies use pre-employment testing. So there are 7 types of pre-employment tests: job knowledge test, integrity test, cognitive ability test, personality test, emotional intelligence test, skills assessment test, and physical ability test. So let's talk about that. Job knowledge test. So under this test, a candidate is tested in the knowledge of a particular job. For example, if the employer is hiring a managerial accountant, the applicant might receive a job knowledge test on the employer's internal accounting process. It will help the employer determine if the applicant can apply the expertise he or she earned from previous accounting position. The next one is the integrity test. Integrity tests naman are one of the most objective tests employers can administer, and they help measure the reliability of the applicant. Employers gears the question to the degree of integrity and ethical guidance to the applicant, encountering certain situations in the workplace. It will help employer naman to know if the applicant is matched for the employer's culture and if they can work well with co-workers. The next one is the cognitive ability test. Cognitive ability test asks questions about mental capacity of the applicant. The answer will help employers predict the future job performance of the applicant, since they will know more about the applicant's handle complexity. Isa sa mga common cognitive ability test ay ang general aptitude test, which highlight the applicant's ability to use logical, verbal, and numeric reasoning to approach tasks. The next one is the personality test. This test attempts to assess the personality of candidates in order to make predictions about their likely behavior in role. Test results might help employers evaluate the applicant's engagement level and if they think they're interested in a long-term career with the organization. The next one is the emotional intelligence test. Emotional intelligence test analyzes the relationship between building skills and knowledge of the emotions of the applicant. Having high emotional intelligence shows how the applicant can diffuse conflicts and relieve the anxiety of coworkers if they frustrated or disappointed. The next one is the skills assessment test. Skills assessment test overview the soft and hard skills of the applicant. Employers test for these skills once they in the later stage of the hiring process to understand who they might want to hire. For example, if an employer wants to hire you for a public relations coordinator position, they might administer a writing test to see how many words you can type per minute. So if you can write newsworthy content within a given timeline and how well you proofread your content before your submission. Additional skills assessment tests may require you to demonstrate your research skills, presentations, or leadership skills to advance in the hiring process. Yeah. Okay. So, and then the last one is the physical ability test. Physical ability tests feature the strength and stamina of an applicant. They also reveal if the applicant is capable of performing in the roles that require physical work like a firefighter or police officer. Testing for physical competencies adds another steps to the hiring process for employers so they can reduce the chances of workplace accidents in addition to finding a qualified candidate. So these are the 7 types of pre-employment tests. Job knowledge test, integrity. Yan. For an applicant, passing pre-employment test advances you into the next stage of hiring process. Employers use pre-employment tests to know if you're the right fit for the position, specific job openings. Learning about the different types of pre-employment tests helps you to prepare for the steps you need to get a job that aligns with your career path. Using these tests as an employer, you may find that some of your best candidates are those who don't look as strong on your paper, but who have just the skills and traits you've identified as being critical to the job. So, thank you so much. And now let's proceed to my next topic, the talent management. So my next topic nga is about the talent management. So this is obvious that human resource plays many roles in a company. The department manages employee retention, talent acquisition, onboarding, payroll, and much more. But one more duty of human resource management is talent management. Before we proceed to the discussion of talent management, let me identify first muna what is talent. So talent is individuals with high levels of potentials of commitment to contribute immediately or in the long term for organizational performance and make a difference. Before we proceed, so yun na. Okay? So what is the talent management? So talent management is a constant process that involves attracting and retaining high-quality employees, developing their skills, and continuously motivating them to improve their performance. Let me give you a short history about talent management. This was emerged in 1990s and continues to be adapted as more companies come to realize that their employees and talents and skills drive their business success. The main objective or purpose of the talent management is to create a motivated workforce who will stay to the company in the long run or to solve retention problem. One of the issues of the companies today kasi diba, they put tremendous effort into attracting employees to their companies but spend little time in retaining and developing talent. So talent management naturally encompasses many types of responsibilities of HR. But the question is, what are the importance of talent management? Here are those. So number one, it helps businesses improve performance. So talent management helps employees feel engaged, skills, and motivated, allowing them to work in the direction of the company business goals, which in turn increases client satisfaction and business performance. Number two, it allows companies to stay competitive. By hiring and developing talented employees, the organization becomes stronger and better prepared to face changes and risks. The next one, it drives innovation. We all know naman that new technology is always hitting the scene. So with talent employees, they are able to find ways to harness the capabilities of new tools and solve problems or come up with original ideas. And also it helps form productive teams. Of course, with appropriate talent management strategy, it will allow companies to form a more productive team. And also, it decreases turnover. Talent management strategy will surely decrease turnover of employees. Di ba, when employees feel valued at the company or when they have plenty of opportunities to grow in the business, employees are less likely to elsewhere else. And also, it leads to a stronger employer branding. Talent management brands your company as an employer. This helps the company to attract the best candidates for future hires. Of course, and last, it motivates others to grow. Di ba? Iba naman ang pananaw ko dito. Sabi, having inspired talents on your team will motivate other employees to grow. But sometimes kasi kahit gaano ka-motivated ang isang employee, kung yung mga kasama niya, yung mga nasa environment niya ay demotivated, possible rin. I am not saying wala, pero that is possible. It depends pa rin kasi sa tao. And now, let's get into the key steps in the process of managing talent effectively. There are 6 main areas of talent management process. The change of organization, culture, recognize talent, attracting talent, managing succession, retaining talent, selecting talent, and selecting talent. Let's talk about the recognize talent. This is all about knowing what do employees do in the free time and find out their interests. This is about identifying or discovering the strengths and interests of your employees. So the next one is about attracting talent. Good companies create strong brand identity with their customers and then deliver on that promise. Great employment brands do the same with good results. As a result, the right people choose to join the organization. The next one is the selecting talent. It talks about how the company or the management should implement proven talent selection system and tools to create profile of the right people based on the competencies of high performers. And also retaining talent. Organizations tend to invest in developing activities to reduce employee turnover and enhance talent retention. Organizations also try to retain their best talent through reward and recognition. The reward strategy should ensure a good mix of rewards is available to appeal the motivation priorities. This might include promotion and increments, encouraging involvement in special projects and decision-making, offering opportunities for growth, training for higher roles, and rewarding contribution for success through recognition program. So the next one is managing talent. So managing talent, it talks about an effective organization must anticipate the leadership and talent requirement to succeed in the future. The management need to identify the potential talent and groom it. And then the last one is the change organization culture. Ask yourself, why would a talented person choose to work here? If, if the organization wishes to substantially strengthen its talent pool, it should be prepared to change its things as fundamentals as the business strategy, the organization structure, and the culture in the organization. So, and then let's talk about the talent management strategies. Talent management strategies should match the organization's goals, define what type of talent the organization needs. There are few different types of strategies that the organization can choose from. Strategy number one, hire only top employees. The advantages of this strategy are obvious. One, you immediately receive top talent and able to grow your company faster. However, for disadvantages, it's expensive and will cost even more. And also, it will be more difficult to retain top talent. Number two, hire promising specialists and develop them. The advantages are you can find talent faster and you will likely to save more money on salaries. However, your company may grow slower because of lack of knowledge. And then the number three, combine the strategies number one and two. Finally, the pros of combining the two above are it gives the best of both worlds and it also allows you to take advantage of combining of new hires and existing talent. So that's all. So that's the all that is the strategies of talent management. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening.